Hello, my name is Alexander Isles and welcome to the Great North Museum here in Newcastle upon Tyne. And right here in the Great North Museum we have a wonderful range of Neolithic tools and items from the Neolithic period up here in the British Isles. Now, as I said in previous episode, the Neolithic saw a new population enter the British Isles. This new population replaced the Mesolithic Britons, and when they replaced the Mesolithic Britons, they started farming for the first ever time. This meant that new tools, new types of technology came in, and when these new tools and new types of technology came into the British Isles, it transformed the way that people were living here. So when you look at these different tools right here, you can start off by seeing that there's pottery, and these are examples of pottery from across the northeast of England. Some of them have different purposes. So for instance, number 13, that right there was a part of a grooved ware jar, probably used for storing, that comes from Yeavering in Northumberland. Whereas alongside that as well, we've also got suspended cooking pots like number 10, which was used to hang over possibly a fire, and therefore when you have that to hang over a fire, you can then heat it from the bottom gradually over time, cooking something inside of there. And it's made from rolls of clay that are then put over, smooth, and create that shape that you see here today. Then you've got a storage pot which has been decorated with finger marks. So again, you see art being put into day-to-day wear as well. So you've got all these sort of tools right there. You'll also notice there's flint inside this case as well. So over the course of their journey, the Neolithic farmers set off from Anatolia in what is now southern modern Turkey, right the way across Europe, and they would have mixed with the pre-existing Western European hunter-gatherers in the mainland of Europe as they came across. So they would have picked up some of the tools and the uses of those tools over the course of their journey. So they would then have combined that with their own technology, and as farmers they would need stuff like sickles, for instance, to cut down crops. So you would then make a compound tool using the flint blades on a piece of wood that would then give you a sickle so that you could harvest your crops. So again, they're using those two different types of tools together. Here on the other side, we have a wonderful range of the stone axes that have been found throughout the region, and this is something very much associated with the Neolithic population. These stone axes now mean that you can shape and utilize wood throughout the whole of the area. When you're shaping and utilizing wood, you're building houses, you're building the locations where people are living, you're building fences so that you can actually keep your animals inside a certain location, so you're penning up animals, and now you're shaping the natural landscape far more than the earlier Mesolithic Britons. And so when you have these, you're now starting to utilize all of this in the landscape, and you're needing to get lots more raw materials. So down here, you can see that antlers are now being utilized as pickaxes. They're digging the stone out of the ground, and you're now having to actually produce a lot more items. You're producing stone axe heads, you're starting to create all of these things around here that are actually going to transform your life and help your farming and growing around the region. Over here in this corner, we've got a wonderful example, and this is number 1, 2, and 3, of a more human element, again, more than just work, but of also the way that the dead are honoured, and also social and spiritual life. So number 1 and 2, you've got a stone axe head there, and alongside that a spear head too. Now with the stone axe head and the spearhead, those were both found with burials, so one in Gateshead and one in Amble. And this is an example again where someone who has survived the person who's died has taken an item that probably either meant something a lot to them or a lot to the person who's died, and they've deposited it into the ground. When they deposit it into a ground, obviously that's a sort of a votive item, that's a sacrifice to them. It's something that can't ever be utilised again. It's a part of that burial until archaeologists discovered it later. And when that's a part of the burial, it's left in the ground. It's really significant because I've said this in a previous video, but the person who's died, they don't get to choose what they get buried with generally. And normally it's someone after you're dead chooses what's going to be buried with you, and they put stuff into the ground. So this is something that either represents the person or shows that closeness that the other person felt and said, right, no, this signifies something about their life. This axe was important to them. It had a story around it that we will never know. Same with the spearhead. And then alongside that as well, we have these carved stone balls. These carved stone boards are found all over Neolithic Britain, and there's some wonderful examples from Scotland. Famously, Skara Brae has got some wonderful examples of these, and I'll put them up on the screen so you can have a look at those as well. When you've got these carved stone balls, I personally think this one isn't finished, and it may be an example of trade. It may be where someone has traded an item between different groups and they'd like to look at it, and we don't actually know their purpose. They could be mace heads, they could be something that was important as in a spiritual item, maybe even a gaming piece or something that was used similar to the one-day game of Bulls, and they would have rolled those across the ground. We just don't know. But we find these in places like Skara Brae and in other places as well, and in other locations too, but they're very much a Neolithic item. And when you've got all these items here, it just gives you a wonderful sense of how people are living back then and how these items are becoming utilised. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode and you've learned a little bit about the Neolithic tools up here in the British Isles, and I've been able to share something with you as well. I really hope I've been able to show you something of Neolithic Britain, and if you have enjoyed the episode, please do like and subscribe, share the videos with your friends, and I have a Patreon as well if you would like to support me through there. Thank you as always, and I look forward to speaking to you in another episode soon.